Welcome back to the Painted Beach. I'm Mary, and today I am in Stencil Sunday playlist collaboration. Everyone in today's collaboration playlist will be using stencils. So let's get started. I have this piece of scrap wood from a project I did, and it's not really perfect, but I decided I'd use it for this primitive SaltBox house. I'm using some Folkart wax and I'm just adding it all over my wood. I'm getting a chip brush and realize I need much more wax than that. So I'm adding the wax again, and then I'm just using that chip brush to move it around and cover the whole surface. I'm also going to use it on the sides, the bottom, and the top. I'm using a paper towel just to wipe off the excess and get that wood grain look. This would be pretty to use, but I am going to cover that up. I want this to be more primitive and less farmhouse look, so the wood grain isn't really going to go with the project I have in mind. I'm saving the back for another project. That way I can just flip it over and make something new, have a new project or a new piece of decor for a different time. I'm going to make sure that's good and dry, and then we're going to get out another light color. I'll put all the colors in the description box that I use, and we're going to use that same chip brush, add the paint, and just wipe it back on the paper towel. We're going to dry brush this on, and we're going to go a little bit more than I normally would with dry brushing, because I kind of want to blend that wax and the lighter color into each other. I think my favorite part of stenciling is creating the background for it to go on. This isn't my usual backgrounds. I like to do chippy, but for a primitive project, I thought this background would be nice. So I'm just making sure that is good and dry before we move on to our stencil. I got this stencil from Farmhouse Stencils. I'll put a link to their shop in my description. And this is a 3-piece set that creates a SaltBox home. I'm using a makeup brush to just dab lightly. Now, if you are new to stenciling, I suggest you tape down your stencils. I stencil a lot, so I just wing it, and I correct any mistakes that I make. But using this makeup brush with these specific stencils seems to be the way to go. They're a little bit more thin than your typical stencil that you would get from like Essential Stencils or somewhere like that. I used black for the roof, and now I'm getting out some imperial red, and I'm going to use my stencil brush because this part is really huge inside of here, and that makeup brush would take forever. So I am using the stencil brush, and I'm just making sure not to go underneath my stencil, so I'm pulling in instead of going out, and then I am filling in the rest with the brush. I do get my makeup sponge at the top and dab it, that way there's no mixture into the roof. When I pull it up, I do see there's a little spot that bled underneath a little bit, but that is an easy fix. Right now I'm just going to add a little bit of black onto my roof where I see I missed a couple spots, and then I'm just going to take my little paint palette knife and I'm just going to scrape right there where I got that little bleed mark. You could sand it and redo your stencil, but I wanted to try this and it worked pretty good. Now I'm going to make sure it's good and dry before I move on to my next set of stencils. Now here you'll see I put this on upside down. I'm going to leave this in here to show you that we're all human, I do correct this, and I'll add that on in just a moment. I'm using the makeup sponges and doing that same dabbing motion that we did on the roof. I'm using as little paint as I can at a time so that I don't get runs that go underneath the stencil. You don't have to have a whole lot of paint on your sponge. You can always go over it again. Here is where I painted over the top and the bottom. I left those middle ones there, and we're going to add our door at the bottom and our windows to the top. Now this part of the video is from the previous part, so I could show you the rest of the techniques that I'm doing. So this part is upside down, but I did correct it after all of this was done. I'm just taking some of that wax and going around the edges to darken it a little bit. I'll go all the way around, and then I'll take a paper towel and wipe it back. Now that I have it all done, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of a splatter effect. So I'm going to get some of that lighter paint that I used in the background, and I'm going to add a little water to it. I am going to cover up the house itself so that the splatters don't get on there. It ends up getting some on there, but I can fix that. We can do touch-ups at the end. So I'm just adding a little bit of water to my brush and some of that light paint, and I'm just hitting the brush with another brush. I realized right here I need to take off the outside piece or I'm not splattering anything. So here I'm just adding some splatters, and then I decide I want some black splatters as well. That paint didn't do as good as the other, but I do like the way it ended up looking. Now I'm just touching up the areas that I got the paint inside the windows and on the house, and I'm going to use a little brush to do that. Just a little detail brush to get in those little windows and all the spaces. I really love this stencil. I love that the Farmhouse Stencils has a lot of primitive stencils that you can't really find anywhere else, and I will be using more of them in the future. Today's video was a part of Stencil Sunday. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope that you'll go check out the playlist in my description. If you enjoyed watching this, please think about giving me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another video. And as always, stay peachy. See you next time.